Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Monday. This is Faith Family Focus, and I am one of your co-hosts, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate and current marketing manager for SIG Sports, and also CEO and founder of Brand by Faith, social media branding company, telling the digital stories of our clients. And this wonderful man next to me is Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, has also served on the executive board for the RPFPC, also known as the charitable arm for the NFLPA Chicago chapter. And he's sporting his green proudly today, regardless of circumstances, of a 30-10 blowout loss to the Dallas Cowboys last night.
Wow, that's brutal. And what is your title of your new company again?
It's marketing manager currently.
Okay. Congratulations. Anyway, the Jets, in spite of what happened, I mean, there's been so much. We haven't had a show in a few weeks, and there's so much to catch up on. But just know that we've been here before. The loss to Aaron Rodgers was just devastating. With all the hype that was built up, and to lose him after 4 plays was really, really, really difficult. He brought a lot of energy, a lot of professionalism, a lot of experience to the team. And, I saw the first interview that he had after he had his surgery. And I tell you, after watching him on Hard Knocks and watching him, we were watching him from afar from the Packers, but just watching him on Hard Knocks, I have a whole nother level of respect of his leadership. Watch how the younger players just looked up to him, and how they responded and how he interacted with the team. That to me, Faith, was probably the hardest thing for me to see, because they're going to miss that, and I was looking forward to that. I know that you was looking forward to that, and hopefully he'll be able to come back. Zach Wilson is gonna continue to struggle. With the
Is that your prediction? Is that your prediction that he's going to continue to struggle, even with Aaron Rodgers physically in his ear for the rest of the season?
Yes, he's going to continue to struggle, and not because of that. He continues to struggle until our offensive line buys him time and also creates the opportunity for their running game. So you got to understand. Excuse me. The plays that Aaron ran, those 3 plays, he was hurried. He was under pressure both those times.
Yeah.
So that's an issue that the Jets are going to have to address, and then also some key injuries on defense. But Dallas is a solid team. They're solid. They beat the Giants pretty bad. I mean, they shut the Giants out opening week. So
yeah, I'm looking at the scores from week 2, which is we had Miami over the Patriots, Washington over Denver. But I heard that Russell Wilson had a great game last night. I didn't get to look at the numbers, but I heard he had a wonderful game.
He had a wonderful game. He actually threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. They had a chance to. I mean, they were actually up. I think over 17 points, and they came back, and at the last play of the game, he threw a Hail Mary, and then they needed 2 points to tie the game, and they didn't make it. But there was a hell of a comeback. But lots going on in NFL football after week 2, and it's pretty exciting. I mean, there's some really strong teams across the board, but I just want to talk to our viewers really quick. We haven't had a show in a few weeks, and we have a lot to talk about in terms of what's been going on in sports, what's been going on with us. Just want to welcome everybody back to the show.
Cool. Back to a question that came to my head when you were talking about the Denver game. How many more years do you think Russell Wilson has at quarterback in the NFL?
Well, that's hard to predict. I mean, he's still functional. He's still mobile. A lot of the tenure, the longevity of NFL football, there's a couple of factors. He's been healthy. he has had any major injuries, and I think you put him in the right situation, he'll continue to play for a few more years.
Um, he's 5 years behind Aaron Rodgers. I think this is a kind of a good segue into what my biggest question to you was going to be, because this is something that I have been trying to predict a little bit and wrap my head around. Achilles, ACL are non-negotiable injuries, right? You're at least down for 1 year. With Achilles, it's normally 9 months. ACLs can be as early as 8, as late as 8. It really just depends on the doctor and the athlete and the tear. But with an Achilles, which is something that is, we've seen Kevin Durant battle twice. Aaron Rodgers is 39 years old, right? He hasn't played the last 2 seasons. He hasn't played since 2021. Is there space for Aaron Rodgers in the NFL after this recovery?
Well, Faith, I think it's all the determining factor is Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, his interview, he sounded real hopeful. He's a very competitive, young 39-year-old football player, and I know he was planning retiring before, but I think just because it's a challenge in front of him, he is going to come back. He's going to play again. How long that's going to be is we'll wait to see. Everybody, like I said, it's any 6 months to 9 month injury. It's a tough injury. I kind of knew it when it happened. I mean, normally with an ankle sprain, you're probably in a lot more pain. Achilles tears, it looks like it's a little bit. It kind of sneaks up on you. Like you remember when Kevin Durant tore his, he didn't realize what it was. He looked back when it happened.
Yeah, it's like someone kicks you. That's what they describe.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of them in person. They refer to it as it felt like someone kicked me in the leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, the pain comes on later. You obviously can't fly or travel, and that's probably why they had his surgery so quickly.
Right.
Which did not surprise me. The new age of sports in general, the ability to go off the field and straight into a MRI or an X-ray, and then figure out get the results within the game, and then be able to choose if your athlete should go back on the field, is something that I guess I haven't been paying attention, but I think it's that adds like an extraordinary change to the competitiveness of the NFL, the NBA. Like, imagine if when you were playing, they were like, well, what do you think it is? Well, my ankle hurts. Well, just run it back there, scan the ankle, and then come back and tell if it's sprained or torn or whatever, because then we can decide how he wants to go forward. That's crazy. It's crazy. Now, I don't know if they do that with concussions. I don't know what the protocol is for the NFL, but I really noticed it with Patrick Mahomes when they did the documentary Quarterback on Netflix. And when he hurt his knee, or I can't remember what it was, they took him back there, the ankle. They took him back there, scanned the ankle, did all the X-rays. He saw like 4 doctors, and then he was able to decide if he can come back or not. I thought that was awesome. So that's the only thing I could think of through the whole process. We got the Aaron Rodgers results the next morning.
Well, I really think that it really comes down to his willingness to want to come back his want to. And it'd be interesting to find out. I know that the next man up, season continues. I mean, we still have a very strong defense. In spite of that, we still won. We played a really tough Dallas Cowboy team yesterday. And Zach still has some work to do, but he needs some help in terms of the offensive line.
And you know what's funny is even in a couple episodes ago on Hard Knocks, they talk about how frustrated Aaron Rodgers was with the line and the snap and a lot of the stuff. And it's crazy that in some sort of way, they've had 2 big losses, one with just losing Aaron Rodgers as available due to injury, but also the loss yesterday to the Cowboys. What you're saying, it sounds like the same issue. Because it looks like they have amazing threats on offense, but that's such a big part of the offense, is the ability to be able to buy yourself, I guess, enough time to make the play, which is different than in basketball. So we'll see. I don't know what your predictions are. I was hopeful after game one, and then I saw them play the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys are the ones this year. I feel like that's always a fan favorite. So we'll see. After week 2, do you have any favorites for not just Super Bowl, but playoffs, besides, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, now that Travis Kelce is back full healthy?
I think there's more parity in the league this year for multiple reasons. I really can't make a prediction right now. It's too early in the season. I would say after week 4, 5, 6, you'll get a pretty good idea who's found their chemistry. Again, the key to any success of any NFL team is the injuries. The injuries can change the dynamics of a team immediately, offensively and defensively. And the organizations that always end up there, the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, those type of teams. I mean, San Francisco looks really, really good. But all is really determined by how fortunate the team is with their injuries. So, again, I think if you look across the league, there's more parity in this league in a long time. Unfortunately, we're here in Chicago, and the Chicago Bears are really struggling. And that's unfortunate. But that tells you how hopeful, even in the beginning of the season, some of these programs, they spend all this money on free agency. They spend all this money on new leadership, new general managers, new coaches, and for some reason, certain organizations end up with the same results, and it's just really unfortunate. I mean, we're sitting here in Chicago. For me, I'm a Bear fan only because I have a lot of Bear friends, but I'm a football fan. But to watch it, it's just really hard to watch it. Of course, I've been a former Jet fan for a long time, so we've kind of experienced some of the same dynamics. But it'd be interesting to see. I don't really have a prediction. Give me 3 or 4 weeks, Faith, and I could probably give you an idea better.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. I'm looking at the playing field, and I really enjoyed that documentary of Quarterback.
Oh, that was great. That was awesome. You want to talk about that for like 2 minutes?
Meadows and what's his name? Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
3 different personalities, 3 different geographical backgrounds, 3 different cultural backgrounds, 3 different skill backgrounds.
Okay.
3 different playing cities with Atlanta, Kansas City, and Minnesota. It was great. I thought it was really cool. What I had heard was it was like pulling teeth getting guys to want to do it. Not a surprise in that sense. But I do think that we're going to see a lot of similar documentaries in other sports like that one.
Certainly. Yeah. It's because of the popularity of the success of this show, there's a lot more players, quarterbacks that are open to being on the show. This was an amazing documentary. Amazing. Because it did show the 3 different demographics, personality. There's a lot of narrative that went into that show. And for a viewer, from somebody from the outside in, and even for me, who played a long time ago, watching it from my lens, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, the level of resources that go into becoming a professional athlete in 2023 are amazing. That's what I like. Not like even I was talking from the team's point of view with like they have the medical equipment on site for games.
Right.
Doctors, we've always had doctors, but they couldn't do anything there. That you had to get in the ambulance and go to the hospital to do all that. Now we can do all of it right in the arena. But also like the individual dedication in comparison to team schedule in season is obviously something that has come about in the most recent decade, probably, is having your own training team, having your own medical staff, having your own nutritionist, having your own chef, all of these things that maybe years ago you guys would have had to use through the team, right? And you wouldn't have even thought about grabbing somebody outside, right? One, because you didn't have the financial means to be able to pay someone else's salary like a professional athlete can now. But also, I think the teams and coaches are more lenient in understanding that each athlete's buildup and training and resources and nutrition has to be different across the board, because each person's schedule is different too. Like if you look at Kirk Cousins, after they win a game, they come home to a quiet home, right? Where if Patrick Mahomes wins a game, he comes home and everybody, all the cousins are there, the family is there, everybody part of the team is there, like his personal team. And then you have Mariota, who's a completely different conversation. So because he also is the family guy, but also has the cultural background of an Islander, right? Pacific Islander, and bringing home family from his culture as well. So I don't know. The biggest thing for me was the resources, because it was night and day, from even 10 years ago to 20 years ago for the professional athlete experience.
Well, let me speak to that really quick. And obviously, you know my answer because when I play, but just watching, I mean, the financial resource in terms of how much money these guys are making, what they're able to do. But watching Patrick's home being built was just, it's just amazing, It's just amazing. So it was a really well done documentary. I thought Hard Knocks, this was really the first time, obviously. I think I'd seen Hard Knocks maybe one other time. But obviously, I had a vested interest in watching it this time. And, being at the facility, being in that environment, watching the kid, the kid that ran the punt back. And you saw in Hard Knocks how they brought him in the office and he thought he was going to get cut. And they said, you're going to be a New York Jet. And he was one of the 2 free agents that they signed. And then him running that punt back was just brought tears to my eyes. It was just so wonderful to watch. So, yeah. So really good in terms of professional football between Hard Knocks, between quarterback, between, people. It's a great sport. It's a really great sport. And I'm just really happy. In fact, we had 12 Black starting quarterbacks in the league. And you talk in terms of that dynamic. I mean, that's something that, I was reading in terms of where we came from, A lot of my buddies we were talking about this, communication. We communicated back and forth. Some guys that played when I played, 1976, you had very few. Vince Evans, you had, oh my God, I'm having a brain lock. It was very, very few. And, a lot of the ones that Marlon Briscoe was a receiver for the New England Patriots. He was a phenomenal quarterback. Ken Riley, who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame from the Cincinnati Bengals. I got a chance to play with him. Amazing. He was a quarterback. Immediately when they come in the league, they got switched to a different position because, Black athletes didn't have the aptitude, the intelligence, the decision making to be able to play that position. And then watch it right now, watch the whole paradigm shift of what our quarterbacks are looking like. It's really, really, really neat to watch. For me, who's been around football for a long time and grew up and seeing the maturation of how this is progressing. And hopefully with you'll see that and more in coaching or in front office, across all sports dynamics, you'll see it more. But 12 quarterbacks, Black quarterbacks in this league, and they are playing very, very well. So just wanted to mention that.
No, I thought that was interesting as well. I think that's a direct reflection of representation and being intentional about your hiring practices, so that you have people in rooms who can see beyond face value and see things for, okay, their testing is great, their skills are great, their ability is great, how they own a locker room is great. I think it starts also at the collegiate level in order for them to be able to get the film and the opportunity to prove that they can be an NFL quarterback. I think that starts as well. I think so. There's a lot of conversations, not just about representation in the position, but also the hiring position and the signing positions and the training and the development and expanding what the people look like who are coaching these athletes look like. I think it just starts, but I think and this is a little bit with the WNBA and the NBA as well, is with the growth of a league, the more it grows, the wider and more diverse and more elevated and intentional it gets. And so I think what we're seeing now is, even though the NFL is one of our longest standing leagues in this country, it's now in the last decade, in my opinion, going through growing pains. And it's finally, in my opinion, it's now on its a next chapter. So it's now being intentional. It was maybe the last 3 years we had it with like hiring Black head coaches, right? And then it was, okay, now our goal is to get people in the front office. But while doing all of that stuff and being intentional with those hirings, we just started the first week of the NFL 2023 season with 12 Black quarterbacks. So
actually, I misspoke. It was 14.
14
Black quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, Desmond Ryder, Joshua Dobbs, Justin Fields, Jordan Love, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. So, yeah. Want to pivot into something. You and I shared this with you, but I want to kind of segue into Deion Sanders.
Well, let's hold on. Let's hit WNBA playoffs.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you take off with that.
Because that's obviously more important because Deion Sanders needs a little bit more time.
Okay, good.
WNBA playoffs. Well, let me put it up on our screen so people know we're talking about it. Okay, WNBA playoffs. Las Vegas played Chicago. Round 1 was a 3-game series. So they only played 3 games, and the first 2 games was at the higher seed's house, which is crazy.
Right.
So not only are you lower seed and already playing a better team, now you're going to their home court.
That's pretty much a wrap.
Let's just get through it, give everybody a participation trophy, but let's continue on with playoffs. So it was Aces Chicago in Las Vegas. Las Vegas beat them, annihilated them, and they advanced. They're on to the round 2. Kansas is not playing. Anybody knows, been paying attention. Kansas has surgery. I can't remember what it was on, but she's out for the playoffs and for most of the part of the season.
Okay. So Candace Parker has surgery. She's out, right?
She's out. It's injury. I heard it was surgery. I can't remember. They've referenced it, but really, honestly, in my opinion, they're rolling like they're fine. It's not really something that we need to pay attention to. It is not the New York Jets. Chicago played Las Vegas. The Sun played Minnesota. Won game 1, lost game 2. Now they're taking game 3 in Minnesota. Minnesota has to win in order to advance. So whoever wins advances to the round 2. Mystics went to
back up, Faith. You got a chance to go up there. What's your prediction on that game, in that series?
It's hard because I think the Connecticut Sun has the MVP. So there's 3 right now. Okay, so let me just blow through let me just blow through the numbers, and then I'll go back to the predictions because that also brings up the conversation that right now the WNBA is in its closest 3-way MVP race that we've ever had. With Jonquel Jones, with Breanna Stewart and New York Liberty, Alyssa Thomas with the Connecticut Sun, and of course Asia Wilson with the Las Vegas Aces. And it really it comes down to the question that I want us to answer is, how do you select an MVP? Is it based off of the best team, best player, best team, or is it based off best player, best out of the entire league, regardless of record? So Connecticut and Minnesota are back in Minnesota. They have to win to advance. In my opinion, the Sun is the better team, but it's hard to play on the road. It's especially hard to play in Minnesota with a very great fan base after years of championships with Maya Moore and that crew, Sylvia Fowles and them. Mystics are in New York. I think New York is going to close it out. I think they're playing tonight. That's another one like the Vegas, like New York Liberty is the best in the East. So it doesn't make sense for them to have to not play more than 2 games. So in my opinion, New York Liberty goes on. They move past Washington and they will be in the second round. Who's our line? Dallas and Atlanta. That's our final one. The lesser of the seeds, the not greatest matchup, in my opinion. Dallas took game 1 after having a 20-point comeback. So in my opinion, I just think that Dallas is going to come out of that and they're going to play Las Vegas. But in my opinion, the Atlanta is not going to make it easy because Atlanta wasn't supposed to be there. So they have nothing to lose. So that's the type of situation we have. Now, here's the MVP race. Alyssa Thomas has the most triple doubles in WNBA history. She also has more triple doubles in one season than any WNBA player ever in the history of the world has combined. She also is the leading scorer in the Sun. She also is AP first team on offense. Like she's all these amazing things, right? And she's a 6'2", and she's leading the league in rebounds. So wow. In my opinion, I think that is you. If you set historical records, that's MVP candidate, and she is. Then you have Breanna Stewart and you have A'ja Wilson. Two of the similar situations, right? Both are the best teams on the East and the West. Both are the best players on the East and the West. The Aces have the better record. New York has beat Las Vegas more than Las Vegas has beaten New York. So you have three people basically across the board. How are they going to pick MVP? In my opinion, what the league is going to do is they're going to pick, because they don't have to pick until I think the end of this month. They're going to pick the person they're hoping Connecticut loses, probably, because that makes it easier, because then it's like, well, she didn't make it past the first round. She can't be an MVP. So then you have the Stewie versus A'ja. And in my opinion, it depends on who's going to win, who's going to get the furthest in the playoffs, and whoever puts the numbers up the highest in the playoffs, which is also hard because they both will probably score the same thing. So I think they're going to go to the best team, the best record, and they're going to give it to A'ja Wilson.
Okay.
Out of the two of them, they should. In my opinion, it's Alyssa Thomas, because Alyssa Thomas has made history this season compared to them.
So I think any three of those, I would be okay with. They're all playing amazing. I like Alyssa Thomas though. I think you need somebody new.
I think you need somebody new. I think you need somebody who doesn't always look like the ideal look that they're always trying to push forward with the WNBA. I think you need someone who maybe the style of game, like everyone knows her game is a little quirky. It's very like, she's a slasher. She's not going to really shoot. Her form is a little unique compared to the average form if people have seen it. And it's just not a super pretty game, but when she is on the go and she can rebound and push, and then she does a spin move, or she does this, or she does that, and she's dropping triple doubles. Her assists are very clear. They're perfect. Like every single time they're on the dime where the person's supposed to be. And if it's not, the person to run to the spot where they're supposed to be. Right. And then she's leading the league at 6'2", right? The world league, the best league in the world, because that's also something we didn't talk about. Hold on one second. We got to talk about Noah Lyles in track. I think she's the best. I think if you do something historical, if you do something that we haven't seen before, if you do something and on a team that technically, and mind you, their coach just got Coach of the Year, right? So in my opinion, it should be at least Alyssa Thomas. It doesn't hurt.
Right? Okay, let's wait and see. I'm pretty excited. I'm excited with these. These are really good playoffs games, and I love the attendance.
The attendance is great, and I think that's why they did the 2 games at the higher seed first. Because I think the higher your seed, the better the audience is going to be, the more money they're going to make off the game, but also that way the games in the viewership looks packed. The viewership, once again, is setting records this year. So it's that, once again, it's back what the NFL was saying. It's like they're now having a moment where they're building on each year in comparison to just like being aimlessly out there, which is what I think the WNBA did from 1997 to 2010.
Okay.
All right. So before we get to Dion, I just want 2 minutes for you to think, is the NBA the greatest league in the world?
No.
Okay. Why?
Is the NBA the greatest league in the world of all sports?
Is the NBA the greatest league? Is it the greatest basketball league in the world? Is it the greatest basketball in the league in the world? What was
wait, hold on. Maybe this. Are we talking about all sports? NFL?
No, not all sports. In its craft, and it's like, is NBA the greatest basketball league in the world?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Does that mean that the NBA is a global league? Or is it an American league like the NFL?
It is an American league, but it has global players. It's becoming a lot more. You got international flavor, but it's still an American league. I mean, the opportunity is in America.
Right. But our last 5 MVPs have been what?
International. That's what make our league so special. It embraces all the international talent. They come to the greatest basketball league in the world.
So by LeBron playing in this league, and this is up for LeBron when he was the best player in the world at the time because I think LeBron's amazing, but I don't think he's the best player in the world in 2023 because he's older. But when he was, right? When he was the best player in the world, let's say 2008, Miami ring 2, okay? When him and Dwayne Wade were going crazy, LeBron James was the best player in the world. No question, right? Are we assuming that the people playing in the NBA were playing the best players in the world at that time? Yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. No Lyles, no Lyles, 200 meter, 100 meter, amazing track athlete, got on his press conference and said, the NBA, that's not a world league. We're playing in the world league because I'm running out here against actual other countries, right? And so it was a big controversy. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay.
We'll
return to this conversation because I want you to see it because the question is the NBA a global league or is track the global league?
That's a good question. There's an argument for both, Faith.
There's an argument for both. And when he said that, of course, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, everybody was going after him on Twitter.
Right.
Because we play against international athletes all day. You run every 4 years. It was interesting. So now let's talk.
Well, let me say this. I think track will nurture more international competition. Track is always nurtured because it's always been an international. It's always been the World Games. It's always been that nurtured it. They're highly competitive events. It always nurtures the international flavor. It's always, right? So it's international. So in a sense, it is. I think they're 2 completely different conversations. If you ask me, it's almost like gymnastics. It's like the Olympics. That's when you talk about those type of sports that nurtures competitiveness and players for the competition. NBA basketball embraces, but the league doesn't extend internationally.
Yes, it does.
No, we don't. In the NBA don't have a team in China. They don't have a team in.
But that's not under a deal. That's not under that. That's individual entities. That's individual leagues. They have individual. This is national representation, right? China is not right. They have their own leagues in China. They have their own leagues in Turkey. They have their own leagues in Israel. And for basketball, those leagues aren't good enough to be better than the NBA. So those stars in those international leagues, right? So say the Chinese 100-meter sprinter could choose to come and play over in the United States of America if the United States of America had a track team that was worthy of that. But that's just so I agree that they're 2 different type of sports. But that's where people keep getting themselves in trouble. They're 2 different conversations. But that's why people keep getting themselves in trouble because they're like, well, but the NBA, I said, they do. Luka Doncic, the Joker, Joel Embiid, Giannis. Like, we can keep going. It gets crazy, right? In the sense of it's like how you view competition, it's hard because track is a different layout, right, of competition, where basketball in some sort of way it's still a newer sport in comparison to track and field in the Olympic Games. And so we only have the NBA to base global skill on.
So to your point, back in 1972, when we got beat, when our amateur players were playing against Russia, right?
Yep.
And we got beat. And all of a sudden we decided that we needed to have better representation in an international venue. And there comes the dream team, right? Right. And that's where that started because we were getting beaten bad on the international because our amateur sports, amateur players were playing against these countries' professional athletes.
Right. And I think that, and then when USA just lost in the FIBA Cup, which we didn't really expect us to win in the FIBA Cup for people that know basketball, because Steve Kerr put together a team that was within the 6'2" to 6'6" height, playing against international teams who have an average of 7 foot, right? Like, you look at these international teams, they pack on in the FIBA
We're
game.
undersized, Faith. We're undersized.
Why were we undersized? Because we weren't the Golden State Warriors, Steve. That's why. You put together a team built like the Golden State Warriors. It was fine. Yeah. And we had just enough role players for it to be a United States team. But it's not going to happen when the Olympics come and LeBron James plays and Kevin Durant plays and Devin Booker plays and all these people play, because we just lost in FIBA and we once again win a gold medal. In my opinion, then we once again prove that where did basketball beat everybody else? In America. And where is the #1 league in the world? In America. So in some sort of way, the NBA is a global league. That's just all I'm saying. We all keep going in circles about it. But when he said it, it was off pure ignorance. But all he could do was look through his lens of track and field.
Right. Cool.
I still think he's irritating, though. He was very annoying. Let's talk what we're all here for. Is it a phase, or are we going to ride Colorado football in prime time all the way to the playoffs this year, where Colorado is the final team on top and everybody is ecstatic and happy and jumping? I know it's all what we want, Dad. Is it going to happen?
Well, to be honest with you, it may not happen this year. It will. He still lacks some, in this last game, exposed it on the line, defensive line, offensive line. He needs a lot more depth. I think he's probably a year away. I think this week against Oregon will reveal it. What he's done, the totality of what he's done is absolutely amazing. I mean, how do you sell how many millions of dollars of sunglasses in 2 days?
And it's his sunglass brand.
It's his sunglasses, right? So he's doing something so different than we've ever seen, Faith.
We've seen it. We just haven't seen it at this level.
At this level. Faith, people don't understand. Prime time has been around for a long time.
Right. They did this already in the NFL. We've had the prime time era, and then we also have teams who already did the prime time era.
Right.
He's just being himself in the collegiate sphere.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you remember when he got drafted by, like he said, he's going to ask for so much money they're going to have to put him on layaway, right? I mean, this guy played in the World Series baseball game, hit a home run, got on the plane the next day and ran a punt return back for a kickoff.
Yeah.
You know? And so how he has been able to transform this HBCU, Jackson State, what he's done for that, but then all the doubters from, his son, who is phenomenal.
Both sons. But
phenomenal. He knows how he's ranking his kids. That's kind of neat. But they are phenomenal, and they play at the highest level. In this last game, I watched that game. I was in New Haven, and that game ended at 2:00 in the morning. For them to have the resilience to come back and win that game, and that game was clearly, some of the, I'm a defensive player, but some of the cheap shots that were purposely taken to take those kids out, and for them to keep their composure, and still come back and win that game the way they did was just great. I've always been a Deion fan. I'm even more, is he a great coach? Yes, he's a great coach. For him to transform what he has done over the last year with two completely different programs, completely different resources, it's been amazing, So,
I think
kudos.
I think the biggest things about being a head coach in football compared to basketball or any other sport is you have to be a culture builder. Like, it's important. It's important in other places, right? It's important. You have to be a culture builder to be a coach in general. But in football, You don't have to be the most amazing at the X and O's. You don't have to be the most amazing at anything. You need to make sure everybody in your building is qualified and ready to perform every single day.
Yes.
Right? And he has cultivated not only a culture mentally and emotionally, but also physically with how he changed the buildings and the type of support staff he brought in, and the level of brand and marketing awareness, and the level of nutrition and apparel that they receive that's marketed to their culture, right? It's like the constant understanding, like his kids joke with him. He always goes, we coming, right? We coming. It's on every single t-shirt, right? And what people don't understand is, like, when you read stuff every single day, when you are coached by someone who is consistently on every single day, it's contagious, right? It's like you read it, you're doing it regularly because it's just the system. It's like the standard. And I think he does a great job of upholding a standard. And I thought the Colorado State coach was exactly the same way. You could see he had built his culture as well, right? They do the blue collar idea, and all the coaches put the blue collars on and they walk around the facility, which can be interesting. But it's like, in my opinion, in some sort of way, he's cultivated a mindset and a standard that his athletes knew. They went into that game and they're like, we're going to knock your heads off every single time, regardless of when the whistle plays or not. And the referees can tell us if we're in trouble or not. They did that. They came out. And in my opinion, that was very on brand. They were blue collar. I understood it. Right. So it was funny to see, like, where and why now culture is so loud. And it's because we just watched two Black head coaches coach predominantly Black schools. Black athletes in a very interestingly different state that just gave them all the resources in the world to lay out. All right, is this what you want? All right, cool. Here's the money. And they're receiving, he's bringing in so much profit for Colorado. It's insane. There's like, they might rival, like, in my opinion, like, obviously in the Pac-12, you have USC football. That's like, we know they probably make a lot of money every year just off being USC football, right? We know where their head coach lives. We know the type of house he lives in, the contract he has. Los Angeles, USC football, and UCLA football is a different era.
Right.
Colorado football, the way people were, the merchandise they were selling in the stores, the way the people in the stands looked, the music the band is playing, what the kids are wearing, the throne, when they get an interception, they go sit in the throne. Like, Miami's already done that with the chains, right? And we've already seen other schools do it. It's just now he's prime time, and prime time has a platform, and he can create this platform for the athletes. And he's done it at 2 universities. 2. He's brought in enough money for 2 universities now to override and probably pay his contract that he had. It's insane, but he's a culture builder, and that's what's so contagious.
I love that term, culture builder. You're so right. You know, it's so right that everything, you look at the brand, the commercial about the university, everything's prime. That's him.
Every in between the games, it's them and his family. And he's bringing money into not only his pockets, but also his kids' pockets and his family's pockets. And so in some sort of way, people can be like, well, like, why does he need all that? Why does he have to wear sunglasses when he's talking to another adult, right? That was the thing that this last week. He said, I take my glasses off and my hat off when I talk to another adult. To each his own, right? To each his own. But in my opinion, it's very on brand. He's been very consistent across the board on who he is. And because of that, parents are like, yeah, screw it. Our kids can go play for Colorado. We know that he's going to take care of them and return them better than we sent him, because in some sort of way, he's upholding his own culture in his own home, and he's putting money into his own kids' pockets. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, you want your people to play for people like that because they get it. And so I think, regardless, we're always on different sides, right? And now we're in the era where we're seeing more former players become coaches with a more modern mindset, right? It's not the traditional blue collar style coaching style anymore, right? It's like he brings in that we're white collar. We're going to work hard. We're going to do this, but we're going to flash our chains. We have money. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And we don't care. We're not going to get all gritty unless we have to. Like, he's cultivating a culture that's built off a different generation. And I think that's what the cool piece to it is that there's a generation of kids who are coming in who that's the best way to coach them now, is that way, to talk to them, to communicate with them, to meet them to what they like, what their music is, their celebrities, the things they like. Now we're seeing is it's resonating, it's working. You don't have to turn them into robots in order for them to perform at their best.
Right. Do you think the fact that he has kids that age helps him transcend?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do I think Primetime's cool? Yeah, I think he's really cool. I'm sure he still has people help him with his social media. I'm sure, you know what I mean? I'm sure they have to explain to him certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think Primetime, because he has kids, he knows who Offset was, who was at the game on the other day, at Saturday, right? Or, of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson comes around. That's regular. Of course, Little Marco and all the YouTube celebrities and the people that, like, the kids watch on their phones on this social media thing. Like, he knows who they are because they'll show him the videos because these is kids. And there's like, oh, that's funny. Have him come to practice. That's how he does it.
Right.
That's how he does it. And everybody wants to just see it up close. They want to be around that program up close. And it's not just because of like the hoopla. It's really because like, God, it looks really fun to play at Colorado right now. And that's all kids want to do right now. They want to have fun.
Why are some coaches, I'm just asking the question from your perspective, why are there haters? Why are some coaches uncomfortable with what they see?
Well, one, because maybe that's not their style, right? I think there's definitely there was some people were confused by what the Colorado State coach said because he himself is a black man, a black identifying man, right? And they were confused, like, why did you make that comment, regardless of who you were talking to? They said he was talking to the kids. He said, well, when I talk to an adult, I take my glasses and my hat off. Well, why did you say that? Well, that's how I do it. That's what I prefer. That's fine. That's what you prefer, but it doesn't mean you're a better coach than Deion Sanders. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean Deion Sanders is a better coach than you. It's just some people it's really hard for some people to let go of things that has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for people.
I wanted to hear. Yes.
To let go of things that's like, and here's the thing. Here's what I will say. If he was doing all that to then turn the cameras on them, to then go play the way they did, Shane and I were watching the game. We were like, this is a nice offense. These are some great play calls, right? We were genuinely, the way he was coaching was very Shaka Smart-esque, right? Mm-hmm. Very gritty, very energetic, that type of coach. But those comments are just fuel to people who in some sort of way use that as a microaggression.
Right.
And then you, as a black identifying man, then microaggress. It was confusing for people. It really was. It was very much confusing. And it is hard not to say, like, okay, we don't want to say you're jealous. We don't. Because I'm assuming, in my opinion, I like to assume that all adults are comfortable enough in who they are, that they're not jealous of other people. But I'm sure there are coaches. I'm sure Nick Saban, and he's already kind of showed his butt already, are a little uncomfortable with like, why does Colorado football have all this attention? Just on the fact that because they're leaning into that modern hip hop, we don't understand. Like,
that's exactly, yeah.
Maybe if you did, because if you had known the history of hip hop, you would know who the number one demographic was who listened to hip hop and bought hip hop music. They know that it's teenage white young men, and primarily who was in Nick Saban's locker rooms over the years. Who has Deion Sanders pulled together? Music and pop culture is what brings people together, right? Because that's the one thing people all see on the same wavelength. And so I think that's what the thing is, like, when they don't understand something and they toss it up to being identifying as something that's like distracting or not blue collar, not all that's traditional, right? And that's almost like not every program is the same. Not every program has to be the same. So I don't know. It's obviously jealousy, which is unfortunate, but there's also probably strategic play in how Colorado State coach did it. So I don't know. I think it's funny. I wouldn't blame people. Like, obviously Deion Sanders is being overhyped right now, but they've won 3 games. So, I mean, there's not much you can say. They got to lose first. That's why I asked you that question. Defense is still a little shaky in my end. They keep throwing to that Sanders kid, and that's what keeps saving them. But that he's throwing to him. And then also Duke is now 3-0 on the season.
I know, Duke. Blue Devils. Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Happens few and far between in the years, but we're happy. We beat Northwestern once. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We talked through some Aaron Rodgers and Jets and NFL predictions for the season. The Netflix documentary, The Quarterback. We talked about the recent 14 Black QBs to start the season. We talked about WNBA playoffs tonight, and then they start again on Wednesday. And then, of course, we talked about Deion Sanders and Colorado football, what our predictions are for that program. So, again, thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Faith Family Focus. We're going to use our faith as a vehicle to heal and sustain others on strengthening their family core. And, of course, our slogan,
let go, let God, let go, let faith, and let go, let love.
Everyone have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you soon.